Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadi alladhina istafa. Amma ba'd. قال تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإلى عاد أخاهم هودا قال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره إن أنتم إلا مفترون صدق الله العظيم. Dear respected brothers, elders, sisters, and anybody that's listening, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, it's a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given us the opportunity to listen about the stories of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how man can be foolish to himself, thinking that he is something and denying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have talked about the previous prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam with his own hands. And then into this world we talked about Prophet Shisa alayhi salam, Prophet Idris alayhi salam, Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. He was sent to his people to remind people, La ilaha illallah, there is no one worthy of worship but Allah. These people were the first people to commit shirk. The people of Nuh alayhi salam, they are associated partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they didn't obey the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed these people with floods, with rain. This is the power and the might of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah can do whatever He wants. So, after Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent His successor, Prophet Hud alayhi salam. Prophet Hud alayhi salam is mentioned 7 times in the Holy Quran by name. He was from the 5th generation after Nuh alayhi salam. And he was from the descendants of Nuh alayhi salam's son called Sam. Remember, we mentioned Sam had 4 sons: Sam, Ham, Yafith, and Kenan. Kenan was that son who didn't believe and he was killed in the floods. So, from Sam came the tribe of Ad. Ad was a name originally of a person, and his tribe became known as the tribe of Ad because of him. You'll also find the title given to the people of Ad as Iram, which was another title given to these people. These people, they quarreled with the children of Ham, so they left Babylon, Iraq, and they settled in Yemen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people of Ad. The people of Ad were very strong people. They were very tall people. They were very powerful people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with strength. Today, you and me, to get strong, we have to go to the gym and we have to pump some weight. And then what happens is, once our muscles start to grow, we like to take selfies. We like to show off our body. We like to wear small shirts so that our muscles, people see our muscles. So we like to show our strength and our power. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted the people of Ad this strength. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them this power. They were tall people. They were strong people. There were nobody like them throughout history. They were giants. And literally they were giants. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with so many things. Their society was blessed. They used to have cattle as their livestock. They used to have a lot of children. The children provided them manpower. They had strength. They had a good community. They were making lots of money. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with fertile land which they could grow crops on. They had gardens, and they would do farming. They had a lot of agricultural land which they would farm on. Allah Ta'ala provided them resources as water. And then these people were clever people as well. They were engineers, they were pioneers of their generation. They built houses way up in the mountains, not to live in, but to show off, that's my house, that's my house. They would carve houses in the mountains. This is probably the most powerful civilization that ever lived, the people of Ad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them strength, Allah ta'ala gave them power, Allah ta'ala gave them wealth, Allah ta'ala gave them a good economy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them in all kinds of ways. They couldn't complain. They had everything. So, the people, they forgot to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They started worshipping idols. They turned towards the idols. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent a prophet to them. وَإِلَىٰ عَادٍ أَخَاهُمْ هُودًا. And we sent their brother Hud alayhi salam to them. Hud alayhi salam was one of 4 Arab prophets. Hud, Salih alayhi salam, Shoaib alayhi salam, and our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam were 4 prophets that originated from the Arab lands. Hud alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention that we sent their brother Hud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentions their brother Hud. That means that Hud alayhi salam was raised up from that community. He was from amongst them. People seen him grow up. People saw his honesty, his integrity. People saw his piety. People saw the way that he behaved, his character, his manners, his etiquettes. You know, what happens is when you see somebody that's had a bad history and been on the wrong track, but when he changes himself and he starts to pray, he keeps a beard, he's come on to the deen, unfortunately you still get people saying to him, oh, but do you remember your history? You used to be like that. You used to be like them. You will still get reminded of your history. It's wrong of the people, but they will still remind them, oh, well, you know, you're preaching to me now, but remember you used to sell the drugs. Remember you never used to pray namaz. Remember you used to steal. That's what tanas, that's what taunts you get from the people. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He sent the prophets, He sent them from amongst them. So people saw their history before prophethood. And nobody can deny that these people were righteous, these people were pious, these people were honest, and these people were there to help people. So nobody can deny the integrity of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Hud alayhi salam. And Hud alayhi salam said, oh my people, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have no God other than Him. You are nothing but fabricators. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you doing? You're fabricating. People before you. You seen what's happened in history. You seen what happened to the people of Nuh alayhi salam. They worshipped idols. They made false gods. They associated partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And look at their history. They were destroyed. So worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the people, just like the previous people, they ignored Hud alayhi salam. Just like today, when our ustad, our teacher, our imam, our alim, our Molana Sahib, our pious people, our elders tell us something, we say, not now, we don't have time. Let us relax, let us chill out, let us enjoy the dunya for a while. And we start denying and we start moving away from the truth. And we know that person, that's what he's saying to me is the truth. What he's saying to me is for my benefit. That's how Hud alayhi salam was there to benefit the people. Hud alayhi salam says to the people, Ya qawmi la asalukum alayhi ajra in ajriya illa ala alladhi fatarani. O my people, I ask you no reward for it. I don't want no money from you. I don't want none of your wealth. I don't want anything from you. Allah will provide me everything. Allah will reward me. Allah will bless me. All I want is success for you in dunya, and I want success for you in the hereafter. I want you to say, La ilaha illallah. Allah is the one that's giving you this strength. Allah is the one that's giving you this power. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that's giving you this fertile land. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you these crops. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with all these blessings. Allah has given you the power and the knowledge to carve out houses in the mountains. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's made you from the greatest and the most powerful civilizations. Acknowledge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the people, they will say to you, to Hud alayhi salam, قالوا يا هود ما جئتنا ببينة وما نحن بتارك آليتنا عن قولك وما نحن لك بمؤمنين. O Hud, you did not bring to us any proof, and we are not to leave our gods on your statement, and we are not to believe in you. Bring us proof. They don't proof. These are our gods provided for us, not this Allah you're talking about. Our God, look, we're well off, where our gods are providing for us, they're taking care of us, our gods are giving us everything, not Allah. Na'uzubillah, they would deny the supreme being that blessed them with all these blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They would say to Hud alayhi salam that, we see you as a fool, and we think you're a liar. You're a fool. Whatever you're talking, you don't make sense to us. We don't want to listen to what you're saying. We don't want to worship Allah. We're happy how we are. They will go on and say, قالوا أجئتنا لنعبد الله وحده ونذر ما كان يعبد آباؤنا فأتنا بما تعيدنا إن كنت من الصادقين. Have you come to us that we should worship Allah alone and give up what our fathers used to worship? You're telling us to worship one God? Only Allah? We are worshipping many idols, and you're telling us to worship only one God? And you're telling us to give up what our fathers, our forefathers used to worship? No, go away. Like today, it's hard to digest, but people, they say, well, our parents told us, that's why we're doing it. And that's how these people said, well, our fathers and our grandfathers, they worshipped idols, so you're saying what they worshipped was wrong. You're telling us to leave what they worshipped. No, go away. Go and bring that punishment that you promised to us. Go and bring that punishment to us. Hud alayhi salam would warn them, if you don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a severe punishment would come their way. But look how arrogant these people were. They will say to Hud alayhi salam, go on, bring that punishment that you talk about. They will say, Man ashadu minna quwwa. Who is more superior to us in strength? There's nobody more stronger than us. What's punishment going to do to us? We're strong, we're hard, we're tough. Hud alayhi salam would explain to them and remind to them about what happened to Nuh alayhi salam and his people, to the people of Nuh alayhi salam, that they were drowned because they didn't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these people would still reply to Hud alayhi salam. And they said, but we're strong, we're tough, we've got all the latest technology, we can look after ourselves, no punishment will destroy us. Those are tales of the past. They're gone now. That's history. You talk about history. This does apply to us. Where we built houses in the mountains, we can take care of ourselves. This was the level of arrogance. This was the level of people that were so sucked into dunya, and to them their world was everything to them. They couldn't accept when Hud alayhi salam would say to them, one day you will die, and once you die, then Allah will resurrect you, and then on the day of judgment you've got to answer for your deeds. And they would deny the hereafter. They would say, how can Allah bring us back alive? How can this happen? How can we worship one Allah? So the people, they rejected the cries of Hud alayhi salam, and they kept on asking Hud salam, go on, bring that punishment that you want to bring. Go on, bring it, bring it. My brothers, this is a lesson to us that power, strength, wealth is not everything. These are blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we acknowledge these are blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we thank Allah and we turn to Allah in worship, then alhamdulillah, these are blessings for us. But if we start to deny Allah and we think this is because our power, our strength, then you are asking for the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishment come? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent first of all drought to the people. These people, they suffered from years of drought. Now everything that they looked up to, their fertile land, their agriculture, their crops, there was no rain, there was no water, their lands have dried up, there was nothing that was being produced. The economy was collapsing because of this. And they had no rain, and they were suffering from this drought. After this drought, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a grey cloud. And when they saw this grey cloud, they got happy. They thought, yes, rain is coming. Yes, we will have rain. Our lands again, they will become green again. They'll become fertile again. We will be able to grow crops on our land. But they didn't know this was Allah's punishment. This grey cloud didn't bring rain. It was a tornado, a strong wind from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 8 days, 7 nights, this tornado battered the people of Ad. And everything they looked up to, their lands, their houses in the mountains, everything was destroyed. To such an extent, they were powerful, strong people. Look how Allah, when He wants to deal with people, they were strong, but Allah said wind. Wind is something that blows you away. Allah sent these strong winds, and the people of Ad, giants, couldn't stop themselves. They thought they'll hide in their mountain homes, but even they were destroyed. Everything they looked up to was destroyed. Allah raised the people of Ad and then smacked them back down again on the ground, on their faces. Allah raised the people one by one and smacked them back on the ground. That's how powerful these winds were. That's how the people of Ad were destroyed. Allah Ta'ala saved Prophet Hud alayhi salam and the believers. But the people who rejected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rejected the call of the prophets, they were all destroyed. Dear listeners, this is a great lesson to us all. And we see in today's society, the rich are becoming richer, the poorer are becoming poorer. And there's a great divide in society. The rich show off their mansions, their houses, their cars, their money, their wealth, everything that's nice to them. They show it off. They show through selfies, through their recording, through everything. They become proud and arrogant of what they have. Just like the people of Ad. They were powerful people, they were wealthy people, they had everything. They had the dunya, they had the luxuries of the dunya. But they forgot one day they've got to meet their end. They've got to leave this dunya. They've got to leave this temporary abode. And once they've got to leave their temporary abode, they've got to face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers, just think of the realities of dunya. Brothers, sisters, everybody that's listening, just think about the realities of the dunya. What is dunya? It's your temporary abode. Some people are rich, some people are not so rich. Some people are beautiful, some people are not so beautiful. Some people are able-bodied, some people are not able-bodied. Sometimes life is not fair. Sometimes life is not how you plan it. These are all tests from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, whatever position Allah has put us in, we should be content and happy with. Because that's how Allah wants us to be. Every time we are blessed with something, Alhamdulillah, thank Him. Every time we go through a difficulty, turn towards Him, be patient. You know the reality of dunya? You know, whatever you've got in this life, your houses, your cars, your wealth, your money, your children, your family, whatever you've got, you know, once you die, the only thing you're going to take from this dunya is the kafan. And this kafan, you bought it probably from some local shop. And who knows, our kafan might be even there stored in the shop. That's the reality. It might have been produced in another country, but it might have been brought into our town and it's probably on the shelf. That's the reality. Our kafan may be waiting us. And you know, when you are laid to buried, when you are in your grave, there'll be none of your mansions, none of your cars, none of your wealth, none of the temptations of the dunya with you. The only thing you will have of the dunya is your kafan, your shroud, your 2 white piece of cloth that you bought for a few pounds from the local shop. That's the only thing that's going to go with you. That's the only thing you're going to have in the qabr. That's the reality of the dunya. Whatever you earned, whatever you had, now will be distributed for others. And in the grave, you're left alone. Imam Ghazali gives a great example. He gives an example of a man who is being chased by a lion. Now he's running for his life. And as he's running, he trips over and he falls into a well. And as he's falling into a well, he manages to hold on to a rope. Now he's holding onto this rope for dear life. And he looks up and he sees the lion stood there, ready to eat him up. For a second, he's thinking, I'm surviving on this piece of rope. So he looks down, and down below, there's a big serpent, a snake, with his mouth wide open, ready to gulp him up, eat him up. So he looks up, there's a lion ready to kill him. He looks down, and there's a snake that's ready to eat him up. And then he looks at the rope that he's holding onto. And there are two small mice, one a white one and one a black one. And they're now nibbling away at the rope. They're nibbling away at the rope. That means any time this rope is going to snap and this man's going to fall. So he's in this situation now. Whilst in this situation, he sees a honeycomb. And his mind is diverted towards this honeycomb. And he puts his finger into the honeycomb and he tastes the honey and the sweetness of the honey. Look at the dangers he's in. He's forgotten about everything and he's enjoying the honey. You know, my brothers, this foolish man is like us. Imam Ghazali says, the lion that's chasing him is death. Death is always behind us. One day we've got to go. Whether we're here for 40 years, 50 years, 70 years, at the end of the day, there's death. So death is always chasing us. And the serpent, the snake down below is our grave, ready to take us in. Who knows, again, our grave may be prepared. So this snake is our grave. And this rope that we're holding on to is our life. And the white mouse and the black mouse, these are day and night, nibbling away at our life. Every second of our life is decreasing. Every moment whilst we're in the dunya is decreasing. And this honeycomb is dunya. With all the dangers around us, we're lost in the sweetness of this dunya. We can see the dangers, but we're so engrossed into the honey that we're ignoring it, or we just forgotten it because we're so engrossed in the sweetness of the honey. That's the reality of this life. That's why we should think and ponder. We're only here for a short amount of time. Let us not be proud and arrogant. Let us not reject Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the message of His prophets. You know, how foolish will we be on the day of Qiyamah, that when we're stood in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to us, I gave you Iman, I gave you Islam. What did you do with your life? Where did you spend your life? Where did you spend your youthhood? Where did you spend your adult life? What did you do? And what answer will we give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How much did we worship Him? How much namaz did we read? How much of the fast we kept? How much of the good actions we performed? How much of our parents did we look after? How much did we benefit our society? Or were we too busy enjoying the dunya and the sweetness of the dunya? We had no time for Allah. We had no time for our parents. We had no time to do good actions because we're too involved and busy in the temptations and the desires of the dunya. You seen what happened to Qawm Ad, the people of Ad, the people of Hud alayhi salam, the tribe of Ad. They were one of the greatest civilizations that lived. They were the most strongest, the most toughest, the most powerful in every way possible. And Allah Ta'ala dealt with them with wind. Allah Ta'ala blew them away, taking mick out of their strength and their power and everything that they earned in the dunya. These stories that we're listening to is not just to listen and get maza and enjoyment and then switch off. No, these stories are for us to benefit, so that how as a person can I be a better Muslim? How can I for the rest of my life obey Allah? I might have not obeyed him before. I didn't have time for Allah before, but whilst I'm isolated at home, whilst we have this time to ponder and think, let us think about the purpose of our creation, the purpose why we're in this dunya, and how we can make the most of this month of Ramadan, how we can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how we can reconnect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala gives all the tawfiq to act upon what has been said. Wa akhiru dawana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.